This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network. Parental discretion is advised.
There are so many streaming TV series.
So many channels.
I have a stream.
I just don't know which one to watch.
Is this show worth our time?
I have a stream.
I'm 3 seasons behind already. Is it even worth catching up?
I have a stream.
What's the series about? Well, my wife liked it too.
I have a stream.
What channel is it on? And who's in it?
I have a stream.
I want to watch something new, something original.
I have a stream.
I want to watch something that's action-packed.
I have a stream.
What's happening, barflies? It's I Have a Stream on Bears Barroom Radio Network. This is Tooch. I am joined by my partner in crime, Joey Two Scoops, Joe Mandel. What's happening, Joe?
What's going on, brother? Happy Wednesday. We're off on we're not our usual day right now. We're on Wednesday, but it feels good to be back on the air, man, after a little R&R and Game of Thrones finale action.
Oh, yeah. And how was your vacation?
Very good, man. I drank more beer in 6 days than I've drank in 3 months, so it was good.
I'm wishing everybody a happy holidays of a Memorial Day weekend. And
Absolutely.
Joe, it's bartender night here. And so
it is.
You and I, it's like Caddyshack when the caddies were allowed to use the pool.
Yeah, it's basically the same idea. But before we jump into that, Tooch, you mentioned Memorial Day weekend, and I want to thank all the men and women who serve in our armed forces. Keep our freedoms what they are, and especially, everyone involved in the barroom, Bobby Bombs, and everyone else who served, Gaines Report, and forgive me if I'm forgetting anybody else that served, but thank you all for your sacrifice. It's what makes us such a great country. So before we get started, I just want to say that. Big salute.
Thank you for your service. And Joe, let's bring in our two bartenders. Let them jump in the pool.
Well,
got a couple drops for our guys.
Yeah, our two non-bartenders. So I'll introduce our first guest in his favorite metal song. We got to cue up the Mastodon every time we bring Aaron in the house. Aaron Michalski's joining us. What's going on, brother?
Not a whole heck of a lot. In fact, 2 weeks from today, I'll be seeing Mastodon in my hometown. They'll be playing the entire album, my full album of all time, Crack the Sky. So I couldn't be happier about that.
Nice.
Well, it's just a day of favorite songs across the board.
I know.
Right, absolutely.
Got another one.
And our next guest has a Wiz Khalifa song that we got to fire up for. It's Kid Frankie. And when we play this, you know who's joining us. You got Frankie Chachi Meyers. There he is.
What's up?
What's up, Chachi? All right.
Yo, I'm just here to drink some beers, man.
All right. What can we get you guys?
Yeah. What are you drinking? How about Chachi? Let's go first. What do you have in the drink? It's your turn.
I need a shot of Jameson and a Budweiser, 16-ounce can, please.
Oh man, he's
tall boy.
Chachi's looking to get liquored up tonight. I like it. So we got the scotch first, and now we got to get that beer.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right.
Aaron, how about you, my friend? What are you drinking tonight?
We're gonna go with the Sam Adams Boston Lager. Something good, something smooth, a little bit good stuff. Either that or what's the one? Cherry Weiss or the Cherry Wheat? That was a good one too.
Oh, there you go. You gotta get a nice head on that one.
Oh yeah, it's like a hot cherry Pop-Tart. That's how I feel like it goes down.
You gotta get a nice head on it, and you gotta get some nice head with it, right?
Well, of course, yeah, absolutely. That's the idea.
You hope so, anyway.
We'd hope so, yeah.
I just saw everybody on Skype like giggling to themselves when I said that. So we're living the dream here on I Have a Stream, right, Tooch?
Right on, and I'm going to join Chachi with that single malt.
Oh, yes.
Pour it up, man. Single malt, double wood.
Smells and tastes like America and Scotland.
And Joe, what can I get you?
Well, you can probably see it over the Skype.
Oh, man, I had one at dinner.
And you drank them all, Tooch?
I had, it's great to drink with dinner. Michelob Ultra. I gotta plug that in the stream here, right here, the beer stream.
Yeah, Michelob Ultra was the sponsor of my vacation, so I'd like to thank them for fueling my drunken exploits on the beach. So, Michelob Ultra, Godspeed.
Man, I have a stream where I was probably all the time going to talk about what we're watching and how's it going for us. So, for me, Joe, I'm binging Deadwood. I binged the whole season over the weekend, first season.
There you go.
In anticipation of the Deadwood movie, which starts on Friday, which hopefully we'll be recapping next week with some surprise guests.
Yes.
So
I was gonna. You tipped your hat a little bit to one of my 2 scoops or less notes, but that's all good. We'll cover that on the news a little bit later.
Right on. So let's go with Joe. What are you watching and how's it going for you?
So, when we were on the plane going to Florida, actually coming home, there's a new Netflix movie out. I wanted to get something that I could watch with my fiance, whatever. Kind of like a chick flick, but something like a comedy, kind of like a raunchy kind of comedy. And there's this new movie out starring Gina Rodriguez, Brittany Snow, and DeWanda Wise. It's a chick flick. It's called Someone Great. And it was just kind of a good, refreshing, kind of modern-day romance, but also about a breakup and how people deal with it. And, it was kind of fun. It was pretty funny. I enjoyed it. And, it kind of made the plane ride go by fast. So we watched that, and I enjoyed it. It was pretty good for what it was. So I'd recommend checking out the movie called Someone Great on Netflix.
Nice. Airplane movies, it's great. You get a selection. And
right.
I think the last time I flew, I was flying, to the Philippines.
Yeah.
And all I did was watch Infinity War 10 times.
Well, that's not too bad. That'll work. And it is
It's a great flight.
Yeah, it's worth saying, Tooch, that movie I mentioned is actually a Netflix film,
right.
which I downloaded on the app and put it in airplane mode, and you can watch all the Netflix content when you're on a plane if you download it ahead of time, which is really nice. I did that with Peaky Blinders before, another great show. So yeah, definitely do that if you're traveling.
Right on your phone or tablet?
Exactly, yep.
And it doesn't matter what airline, right? Or
nope, as long as you download it before you get on the plane, it doesn't matter.
Very cool, very cool. And of course, Deadwood is on HBO. So, Aaron, what are you watching and how's it going for you?
I actually just got done watching season 14 of Supernatural, which is my favorite show of all time.
Hell yeah.
They just recently, within a month or two ago, announced that the next season's going to be the last season. So that's absolutely heartbreaking for me. But yeah, I just got done. And I don't know, have you guys seen the full thing? Because the end is crazy what they're setting up for the next season.
Nice. That's also a Draft Dr. Phil favorite. I think
Excellent.
He used to talk about that all the time.
Hell yeah.
Dude, me and Phil talked about that show all the time. I love that show.
Yeah, that's my absolute all-time favorite show.
Where can we find Supernatural? It's on Netflix, I think, right?
Yep, it's on Netflix right now. The last season just got put on a couple weeks ago. So I think, like I said, I think it's 14. I think they're going to end it next year at 15, which just sucks. But it is what it is. I'd rather it go out than fizzle out. So
that's amazing. 15 seasons. Wow. I have to confess, I haven't seen it. I mean, I guess
it's the greatest bromance of all time. How have you not seen it?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it either. I admit.
Yeah.
Oh,
come on.
TV confessional.
You guys gotta watch it.
Shame.
Gotta watch it.
Shame.
Gosh, the best. Shame.
Actually, stall for a second because I'm pretty sure I have that. I'm pretty sure I have that drop laying around somewhere.
So it's funny because, like, especially they go back. If you see them when they started, they're just like teenagers, good-looking teenagers kind of dudes, and now they're like this grizzled old men. It's just entirely different.
Nice.
There's a meme I saw where it said, "What in the hell?" It said something about what in the actual hell happened to him, and somebody said it's funny because the actual hell happened to them, at least once for both of them. So, you definitely, if you guys haven't seen it, check that out, man. It's the best show I've ever seen.
Shame.
Joe.
There.
Shame.
Absolutely.
Such great shame.
Yep.
We all feel it.
Chachi, what are you watching and how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Lately, I've been watching The Last Kingdom. It's on Netflix.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have seen that.
That's on my list.
Is that Jason
it's
Momoa?
Incredible. I'm not certain. I don't really follow the actors and shows that much.
Is the one that the zombies in Korea? That's the one I mentioned actually last time.
Oh, that's what Tooch was talking about.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
no, that one's just Kingdom. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Last Kingdom is Knights, I think, right?
Yeah, it's the story
Vikings
of
Knights.
Vikings landing in England and trying to conquer England, and then them driving back the Vikings and trying to establish peace. It is epic. It's a very like legendary, like saga type story. It's really great plot. Like the characters and acting are terrific.
Well, I love Vikings. If I should like that one, right? If I enjoyed Vikings on History Channel.
Yeah, if you like Vikings or like historical fiction type TV shows, it's excellent.
Yeah, I really ate up Vikings, man. Lothar Ragnarok.
I did until Ragnar died.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, that just killed it for me.
They actually bring a lot of those characters up in the show as well.
Huh.
Ragnar Lothbrok. What a great character.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great show. The first like 2, 3, 4 seasons were awesome.
It's a great name.
It kind of wandered a bit at the end, but still a great show. I recommend Vikings, man. If anybody hasn't seen Vikings, I don't know. It's done though. I thought they might be bringing back another season. Does anybody know? For Vikings? No, it's all done.
Certain.
I think it's done.
Okay.
Is it?
Right on.
But you never know.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
Joe, we have a really cool memory stream tonight, man. I'm really excited about. This is a show that ran initially from 1993 to 2002, and then had a half season in 2014, 15, or 16, around there, and then a full season last year, which went completely unnoticed by me, unfortunately. I was a huge fan of the show when it came out. It just blended so many different things together, and it's really intriguing television. And when you hear the theme song, you'll know exactly what show it is. Unmistakable theme song.
Procedure is called biopolymerization. It's basically a high-tech mummification process. The remains are dipped in the epoxy, and once it's cured, the specimen can be sliced for examination.
Well, you got yourself a nice paperweight. Yeah, I had a praying mantis epiphany, and as a result, I screamed. And not a girly scream, but the scream of someone being confronted by some before unknown monster that had no right existing on the same planet I inhabited.
Mulder, are you sure it wasn't a girly scream?
I have a theory, if you want to hear it.
Van Blunt somehow physically transformed into his captor, then walked out the door, leaving no one the wiser.
Scully, should we be picking out China patterns or what?
Good morning.
Whatever tape you found on that VCR, it isn't mine.
Good, because I put it back in that drawer with all those other videos that aren't yours.
Well, this definitely isn't mine.
Mulder, I think the only thing more fortuitous than the emergence of life on this planet is that through purely random laws of biological evolution, an intelligence as complex as ours ever emanated from it. The very idea of intelligent alien life is not only astronomically improbable, but at its most basic level, downright anti-Darwinian.
Scully, what are you wearing? But the baby's father is an alien.
No, I didn't say he was an alien. I said he was from another planet. His name is Luke Skywalker. He's what's known as a Jedi Knight.
Did he have a lightsaber?
No, he didn't bring it.
What do you mean you want me to do another autopsy? Why do I have to do it right now? I just spent hours on my feet doing an autopsy, all for you. I do it all for you, Mulder. I haven't eaten since 6 o'clock this morning, and all that was half for cream cheese bagel, and it wasn't even real cream cheese. It was light cream cheese. And now you want me to run off and do another autopsy? What the hell happened to you?
What?
just constantly amazed by you. You're working down here in the basement, sifting through files and transmissions that any other agent would just throw away in the garbage.
Well, that's why I'm in the basement, Scully.
They're in the basement because they're afraid of you, of your relentlessness, and because they know that they could drop you in the middle of the desert and tell you the truth is out there and you'd ask them for a shovel.
That's what you think of me?
Well, maybe not a shovel. Maybe a backhoe.
And no one, no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
Wow.
Yeah, great show. 16 Emmy Awards for that show, including one for Gillian Anderson, one of my, a crush of my 20s. So, you guys, go real quick question while we're on Gillian Anderson. Hot or not? Go ahead, Joe.
Man, I guess I never really gave it a whole lot of thought, but
wow.
I think I'm gonna go undecided.
Man. Wow.
Kind of treading the line there.
Chachi, hot or not? Gillian Anderson.
It's kind of hard to say, but
man, really? I know what Aaron's gonna say.
She's got a hot bod. She's just got a total bitch face, man.
Aaron, hot or not, Gillian?
Nope, definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
100% on me on that.
Dude.
Yep, I think so.
Because she's super smart, man. That's sexy. All right.
No, yeah, for sure.
So 16 Emmys, like I said, including Best Actress in 1997 for Gillian Anderson. Multiple Golden Globes, including Best Actor for David Duchovny. And really, the show that launched both of their careers for certain. If you go back and watch one of the early episodes, they are so young, man. They look like kids. But back then, I hardly thought about it. It was something new and created by Chris Carter, who went on to do Millennium. And I believe he was also involved in Fringe, another TV show. They were all kind of like X-Files type shows. And the inspiration came from one of my favorite shows when I was a very little kid called Kolchak, the Night Stalker, which ran in the early 70s. And man, that used to scare the crap out of me when I was a kid. It only ran for, I think, 1 or 2 seasons. There were very limited episodes. It took place in Chicago, and Kolchak, played by Darren McGavin, was a reporter for the Chicago Sun-Times who investigated paranormal events. We'll probably do that in a member stream later on. But X-Files way ahead of its time. In fact, X-Files predicted 911 in an episode that hypothesized flying planes into the World Trade Center as a terror attack prior to 911. Don't know if you guys ever saw it. In fact,
wow, I did not know that.
The episode has not been back on again. I don't think it's not allowed on TV. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, well, the Simpsons did that too, though. I don't know if you ever saw that picture.
I didn't see that one, but
it says it's like the price was like $9.11, and it showed an airplane looks like it was flying right into the Twin Towers. So you have to look that one up. But they had it in an episode. Another thing the Simpsons predicted.
Yeah, and another episode called Home, which was about it was kind of an homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which had its very it's probably the X-Files' most graphically violent episode. It had mutated looking inbreds, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a mother giving birth, legless mother amputee underneath a bed that they'd slide out. I don't know if you said that has never been back on again because it's too controversial.
Well, if that's not family entertainment, I don't know what is.
Right, and this episode gave you so many different things, including long show running series length mystery about alien abduction and aliens conspiracy, which was the nut of the show. But my favorite episodes were always the standalone episodes, and I'll ask you guys in a minute here after I go over a couple things, like what you remember best about the X-Files. Remember one episode called Tombs, which was about a serial killer who could contort his body to enter through very small spaces. He was over 100 years old, and he had to eat people to continue to live and continue his longevity. So it was also Postmodern Prometheus, which is an episode which won an Emmy Award, and it was a black and white tribute to Frankenstein movies, and it had a character called the Great Mutato, who was a genetic experiment.
I remember that.
He loved Cher and peanut butter sandwiches. So don't know if I see that. Aaron's got the New York 9/11 Simpsons. Wow. But my favorite episode, of course, this episode won an Emmy for best teleplay. It was called Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose, and it starred the late Peter Boyle, one of my favorite actors, and he won an Emmy Award for his guest appearance on the show. And it was about a reluctant psychic who helps Mulder and Scully hunt down a serial killer who's killing fortune tellers he considered fake. I don't know if you ever saw this episode, but man, it was funny, it was sad, it was suspenseful, and it was scary. And it was probably one of the best hours of television I've ever seen in my life. If you ever get a chance to see it, it's called Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose. X-Files Season 3, Episode 4. So, Joe, I know you were a young man when X-Files came out in 1993. What do you remember? And any lasting impressions?
Well, I tell you what, I don't remember a whole lot about the X-Files, Tooch, but what I do remember is that my mom loved the show. And I would know that if I heard that theme song, that would usually mean not to interrupt the show. There was no there was no DVR back then. There was no pausing. You know, there was only recording on VHS, which we all know how hit or miss that was. So I just knew it was something not to interrupt. And you know, when I got a little older, I got to see some of the episodes, and I got to see a couple of the new episodes when the new seasons came out. I think it was last year or the year before. And I did see the X-Files movie all those years ago. They did make the X-Files movie, which I thought was really good. But I just remember fond memories of being a kid. And like you said, it's got to be one of the most recognizable, funky theme songs out there. It just screams aliens. When you think of aliens, you think of the X-Files. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, and Aaron, you were probably young when the show came out. What do you remember about the X-Files?
I remember the Fluke man scared the piss out of me. I only saw when I was staying at my aunt's house, and I remember I came downstairs. I was a little kid, so of course it was bedtime, and I was staying at her house. I needed a glass of water or something like that, and I saw that commercial where it reared back and screamed, and I had nightmares forever about the Fluke man. But like when I got older, it wasn't so bad. But the two episodes that stuck out to me, the first one, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, is Unruhe, Season 4, Episode 4. It's the episode where they take pictures and they have what they call the howlers in them. So it's takes a picture and it looks like they're being drugged down the hill by like these demon spirits. And then the other one that stuck with me was the one called Soft Light. And I can't remember. I'm looking it up. I have actually where somebody like they evaporate into light.
Yes,
and that's what I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to look at the plot so to do a better job of when the person looks through the door's peephole, one of the other people steps back and just basically slips beneath the door. He can move through light. That was one of the things that I remember the most from that episode. But those were the two things, other than the Fluke worm giving me nightmares, that really stuck out.
Great. Yeah,
that was great when I was older, but when I was like 6, it just nightmare fuel, man. It was terrible.
Chachi, you might not have even been born yet, but what do you remember about
Definitely wasn't.
Did you catch it? Did you catch it later on?
Yeah, it was a show I binge watched a couple of years ago on Netflix. Actually,
nice.
I don't really remember too much because I did binge watch I don't even remember how many seasons, but way too many seasons of those hour-long episodes in 2 weeks. I did the entire thing. But one thing that I really loved about that show was just the whole intimacy between Fox and Mulder, and how they were best friends, and had all their little inside jokes that they would tell throughout the show. That really kept me interested. And also the fact that Mulder was Fox. Sorry.
Yeah, Fox Mulder and Dana Scully were the two agents.
Fox was just a nobody in the agency, and nobody really liked him or wanted to talk to him, but he was always just doing his job, putting in the work to try and find out the truth and find out what was really happening and all of these crimes and incidences that were being reported. And it was just the FBI secretly having like a plot to like keep him away from the truth the whole time, and there being that backstory and everything. And while there's the whole crime drama aspect where every episode's just like a new random thing, there's that whole backstory that like really pulls it together as a show. I feel like
Right,
that was really good.
Super frustrating. You know, he was always foiled by the government, or one step ahead of him, the smoking man or cancer man. That dude was always a good bad guy, you know, and Mr. X was his initial contact. I think was played by Lance Reddick or Stephen Williams. One of those two guys played Mr. X. And, you know, Mulder would leave an X, a white X taped in his window if he needed help, you know, and just so many great monsters. It was a monster movie show, you know, and that's what really drew me into it. And Joe, anything you want to add first before we head into the news with 2 scoops or less?
No, sir, I don't. So let's go ahead and jump into some news.
Right. Yeah.
What?
You look like Mary Poppins.
Is he cool?
Hell yeah, he's cool.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all! Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
It's entertainment news in 2 scoops or less.
Holy smokes!
That's right, everybody. This is the part of the show where I give you the entertainment news in 2 scoops or less. And first, coming up today, Hulu released subscriber numbers, announcing that 70% of its 28 million users are on the $5.99 per month ad-supported plan. So that means 70% of users are seeing advertisements during every single show. So just think about the money-making powerhouse that Disney has acquired there. That's pretty scary, guys. I don't know about you, but Disney raking in the money hand over fist, no doubt about that. Next thing coming up here, you got a bunch of premieres coming up on Netflix this month. Black Mirror Season 5 premieres on Netflix June 5th. Designated Survivor Season 3 premieres on June 7th. Jessica Jones Season 3 premieres on June 14th. That's the last season of any of the Marvel shows before they were canceled. So that's going to be an exciting one to check out. Really good show if you have not seen it. And then a big movie that's going to be coming on to Netflix is Academy Award-winning animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is hitting Netflix on June 26th. So that is going to be awesome. Make sure you check that out if you haven't seen it. It's a really good movie, so check that out. And then Tooch stole a little bit of my thunder earlier, but Deadwood, the movie, premieres on HBO this Friday, May 31st. So make sure that you're checking that out. Tune in for our full review, possibly next week, and if not, the week after. That's going to be a really big one. It's going to close out that series in style after it was canceled after 3 seasons. The movie promises to close out the plot line of the first 3 seasons and kind of put a bow on that story. So I'm excited to see what they do there. Tooch and I both been watching Deadwood, so that's a really great show. Make sure you check that out. And then lastly, Game of Thrones star Kit Harington entered a rehab facility for alcohol and stress issues. We wish him a speedy and healthy recovery until his rehab watch has ended. And that, my friends, is the news in 2 scoops or less.
Oh, man. Nice. Chachi, you watching Deadwood?
I have not watched Deadwood.
Oh, okay. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you see the movie?
I have not seen the movie.
I haven't seen it either, but man, I saw, I don't know, YouTube, a music video blew by. I don't know what the song was, but it was from the movie, and I was like, man, this animation is really cool.
The animation is unbelievable. I'm telling you right now.
Awesome, man. So
if you have not seen it, it's a must see. It's one of the best movies I saw last year. And if you have a 4K TV or you have a high def TV, it's definitely the movie to watch. The animation style is unreal. So with that said, June 26th, you better be watching that, man, and we'll have to talk about it afterwards.
Oh yeah.
We are going to. Oh, I don't know if anybody saw. I tweeted out some suggestions for the series for us to recap. Lots of good ones coming out, including Watchmen and His Dark Materials. I know Joe's going to be reading the books, so that should be a good one. I'm looking forward to that one as well.
Yeah.
And what else? Westworld Season 3 is coming out early next year.
I'm really excited for that.
That's going to be great. I'm going to have to binge that one. That's one. I watched the first 3 series, couldn't really get into it, so it's going to be a second chance series for me.
Nice.
And then we're about to head into Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, the Ted Bundy movie with former Disney star Zac Efron. So, Joe, you got a little clip from the Netflix film?
Of course I do, Tooch. Here we
All
go.
right.
This is Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile.
Do you remember the night we met?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been witness to the unspeakable horrors of the defendant's heinous crimes. You have seen ghastly injuries, smashed in faces, broken jaws.
Will the defendant please rise?
For years, I've carried this guilt that I'm to blame for everything. If only I hadn't trusted you.
Promise you'll never leave me, Liz.
It's about another missing girl, isn't it? Did you do it?
No.
We've got a very disturbed, sick individual.
You'll be the first nationally televised trial in history.
You look nice, partner.
I'm disguised as an attorney today.
I get very scared, but, he's also really dreamy.
There are things you don't know that will shock you beyond your worst nightmares.
It's all a lie.
It is a capital murder case, and you are skating on thin ice.
And that is Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. Man, oh man, guys. I tell you what, I sat down and watched this movie, and it exceeded every expectation I had. Chachi, what were your first impressions, man?
I thought that it was really an incredible film. And Zac Efron, surprisingly, did some amazing work there.
Right?
I really did not expect him to be able to pull that role off so well, and he really killed it. And literally.
Yeah, man, Zac Efron was amazing in this movie, man. If you're going to watch it just for his performance, man, because he did kill it, man. It was excellent. The thing that struck me best about First Impression, they kind of make you sympathize with a serial killer, You're kind of like, he escapes 3 times. You kind of like rooting for him a little bit, maybe. It makes you think, maybe he wasn't guilty. Of course, he was guilty, but...
That's what I was thinking, the whole time.
Yeah, he
maintained
his innocence.
That creepy girl that was following him.
Yeah, or he was just a mistaken identity, because if you remember when he was thrown into the Florida jail, the Florida penitentiary was playing no games. They, hold him down, take impression of his teeth, and then he had a chance where he said, the teeth impression, because they could have used the teeth impression to bite the buttocks of the dead bodies,
Yeah.
But of course he confessed to 30 murders, maybe to avoid the death penalty. He ended up going to the electric chair anyways in 1989. I remember I was 21. I remember when he was put down in Florida, and during the 70s, I don't remember his killing spree because I was just a little kid. He was active, killing in 7 states between 74 and 78. So I was 6 to 10 then. But true number of his victims is unknown. Joe, what'd you think of the movie?
Oh man, I I went in with low expectations because, I didn't know what to expect. Everyone was saying, like, oh, it's kind of random that Zac Efron's playing a serial killer. But, man, I tell you what, he knocked it out of the park. He played a compulsive liar to a T. And, his relationship with Lily Collins, which was his longtime girlfriend, and then, how he made you believe him, right? And kind of the way that he handled himself in the courtroom. I just thought he was unbelievable. And I think this movie kind of raises a question. You kind of talked about it a little bit, Tooch, but is this movie glamorizing the life of a serial killer? And I think it's a question we have to ask. And I'm going to throw this one to Chachi for a second. Chachi, does this glamorize the life of a serial killer?
I actually think it does, because the way that he portrays Ted Bundy, like, he brings all that Disney charm and glamour and moxie with him. So he's like the lovable Zac Efron, but he's like actually Ted Bundy, the serial killer, who's just a really super nice guy on the outside.
Right.
And he still is able to have like a wife, 2 wives even, and live with a child and have like a normal life while he's just like murdering people on the side.
Right, he impregnated his longtime girlfriend. He impregnated his longtime girlfriend when she was on a conjugal visit.
Which was hilarious.
I read somewhere that the conjugal visits weren't allowed in Florida, but after a while the guards just didn't care. And his daughter lives anonymous.
Yeah, they apparently bribed the guard to turn his eye.
He does have a daughter named Rose who lives anonymously somewhere in an assumed name. So, Aaron, let's get your impressions on Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile.
I thought it was good. I didn't really have any problems with it. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit more to it. We were discussing off the air that they didn't show. And I don't know a whole lot about Ted Bundy, but I mean, there's another Ted Bundy documentary that they had released that it stayed pretty close to. I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I'm not a huge serial killer fan, I guess, if you want to say it like you guys were just talking about whether it glamorized it or not. It's just that whole thing. I just not my thing. But I did enjoy the movie. It's just a movie point of view.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And Tooch, there's a great question in the chat room. I'm gonna throw it to you. Sandman in the chat room wants to know: is it really glamorizing if that's how Ted Bundy really was in real life? Are they really glamorizing him, or is that just how he was?
Well, he was a smooth talker, he was a confidence man. But, I mean, there's that repulsion factor because to me, I mean, I've met people who are just pathological liars, and dated some that they're like nightmare, other halves that like keep coming back and give you nightmares later. That's really what he was.
Those chicks are the worst.
That's really what he was. You can't. They're just like codependence, murderous codependency. Or psychopathic codependency. But I mean, like Aaron said, it doesn't show anything. It doesn't show any murders. Nothing. So you kind of it allows you to sympathize with Ted Bundy, like, because he would have made it like the judge said, he would have made a good attorney. He was better than some of the public defenders that they were giving him. But had some great cameos, of course, or supporting roles. John Malkovich as the judge, who gives you the line, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. And knew what he was dealing with, but still gave Ted Bundy respect. And Kaya Scodelario, who was in The Maze Runner. Don't know if you guys have ever seen the Maze Runner movies.
Oh, yeah.
And she was the girl who followed him to Florida and bore his child. But yeah, good supporting cast. Jim Parsons, who plays the attorney in Florida who gets the conviction from Big Bang Theory. And yeah, it was. I recommend it. We'll go around. You guys are going to recommend it, and this is on Netflix, of course. So, Joe, recommendation?
Highly recommend. I think it's a really, really interesting film, especially if you like, a movie it's about a serial killer, but it's not graphically violent.
Yeah.
It's not going to scare you. It's, that's kind of what I was worried about, because I don't really like, gory graphic things. Usually it's not my thing, especially like horror movies. And it's definitely not that. So if that's what you're worried about, go check it out, because it's really cool. It's a movie that kind of makes you think a lot about, how people are behind closed doors. And I highly recommend it.
It's mostly procedural, with past events being described. Chachi, recommending this film for Netflix users?
I would absolutely recommend this film. Zac Efron is amazing. He's witty, charming. He's got great charisma. Just plays Ted Bundy like perfectly. If you've seen like some of the video they play at the end of the video or at the end of the movie, it's like wow, like whew.
Yep.
Scary close.
Right. It was the first courtroom ever televised, first case ever televised.
Yeah.
That's something to be noted about that. Aaron, what do you think? Recommending this movie to our listeners?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of bounce it off of what Two Scoops said. I am not a horror fan. I am the big wuss. I don't like scary stuff. I don't like gore. I mean, violence, if it's supernatural violence, kind of a thing. But the most important thing that I took away from this, like what Two Scoops said, is it's more about Ted Bundy than what he did, which I think is what kind of sold it for me. If it had been as gruesome as everything else that we know that he did, it would have been bad. But this was more of a feature about him and him as a person and how charismatic that he was. Or, just that he was such a trickster, and he's very intelligent and a handsome dude, and that's why he got away with it for so long. So I think so, yeah, because like I said, it's not about what he did, it's about him as a person.
Right, so one last question before we move to The Last Watch, the documentary about the making of Game of Thrones final season. Did you find yourself rooting for Ted Bundy in this movie, despite your best intentions?
Yeah, you know what? I really did. I'm not going to lie. I found myself rooting for him. I'm like, oh, he's going to escape. How's he going to get out? Like, what guy escapes prison 2 times? I mean, that should be a red flag right there.
No kidding.
And then, also before we move on, I got to call out. I have to say Lily Collins was absolutely phenomenal in this movie. Yeah, and apparently her and Zac Efron are an item in real life now. So
wow.
There's that. But she did a great job as Ted Bundy's longtime girlfriend, and one who actually first called him into the police and kind of lived with the guilt all those years. Right. So I thought she was absolutely fantastic, and I just had to say that before we moved on.
Right, that was why she gave him the time of day for so long, was she felt guilty about turning him in accidentally. Well, I mean, I'm sure she's glad about it in retrospect. But Chachi, did you find yourself rooting for Zac Efron a little bit in this movie?
Yeah, I definitely did. I mean, it kind of made it seem like he didn't do it for the longest time in the movie, at least it felt like. And I didn't really know a whole lot about Ted Bundy going into it, besides the fact that he was a serial killer. So I was kind of thrown off. But once they got to the courtroom and he was talking to the judge, like those dialogues between those two, like the interactions they had were just like brilliant, like so well written, and like the way they just acted it out was awesome to watch. Like it was so intense. It's amazing TV.
Yeah, Aaron, you root for him a little bit?
Well, I mean, knowing what he did, not so much. But I mean, like, it's just, the charisma, not only of what, Ted Bundy, if you watch the other documentaries on Netflix, but then the way Zac Efron plays him, it's kind of hard not to. So, just a little bit, like, he can, he's not that bad of a guy. Like he said, who escapes twice? He got out twice. Like, okay, come on. There's something special about what he was able to do, but that's kind of a 50-50. Yes, because he played the good character, but knowing what he did that they didn't explain in the movie, it's like, no, just absolutely not.
I mean, I think the filmmakers kind of wanted you to sympathize with him, and they succeeded. For me, they kind of, the way they told the story and the way they shot it and the way Zac Efron portrayed it, it kind of was hard not to kind of root for him a little bit, even though you're rooting for a serial killer. And I guess if you'd watch the Ted Bundy tapes, you'd probably root for him less. But
right,
we had a question in the chat room from Steven Zimmerman. Question is this movie better than Zac Efron's other films like High School Musical, High School Musical 2? What do you guys think, Joe?
Well, it's definitely better than High School Musical. It's better than 17 Again. I love the Neighbors movies because they're funny and stupid. So I'd say it's probably a better movie than Neighbors, but I don't say it's quite as good as The Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman's probably the best movie Zac Efron has done. If you have not seen that, go check it out. Really, really good. About P.T. Barnum, also has Hugh Jackman and a bunch of other big names in it that I can't think of. Michelle Williams, just to name a few. But I will say this is definitely one of his best films, and it kind of proves his acting chops. So, I definitely say it's one of his best films. But, Neighbors always has a soft spot in my heart. If you haven't seen that with Seth Rogen.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, my God, that's a good one, too.
Dirty Grandpa, of course, another one with was funny as well. All right, so, Joe, let's head into the last watch. And put Game of Thrones to bed.
Literally.
Here's Where the Story Ends. That's the Sundays. Great song. And this is Where the Story Ends for Game of Thrones for us, The Last Watch, the documentary of making of Game of Thrones final season. And I got to tell you, this is something you guys don't know about Old Tooch, but I went there. I went to Belfast on the Game of Thrones tour 2015, saw the studio, went to the Titanic Museum. It's right there. Those two giant big yellow arms that you see outside the studio there were used in the building of the actual Titanic ship. And traveled around, saw a bunch of the scenes, saw that quarry where they filmed the wall. That was like their wall, it's just a kind of a wall that they kind of used for the wall, the northern border of Westeros. And a bunch of other places, Inch Castle, the ruins there, where they'd had the King of the North, which they built back in digitally. And another castle, I can't remember the name of it. But that was to stand in for Winterfell. And I met the Direwolf pups. Of course, they were bigger then. And a few of the extras who were multiple appearances, including one who rode Jon Snow away in Hardhome. And another thing I forgot to say was that X-Files, the episode I was talking about with Peter Boyle, was directed by David Nutter, who has directed many episodes in Game of Thrones. So the X-Files episode, which won 2 Emmy Awards, directed by David Nutter, who directed The Reigns of Castamere and episodes 1, 2, and 4 of season 8. Nice. So, yes, Belfast, a beautiful city, very cosmopolitan. You can go out and see the murals, of course, just, relics of the Troubles between Northern Ireland and the Republic. If you guys... I want to give a little bit of your opinion on The Last Watch. For me, it was great to see how hard they worked. Each episode is like a movie, one single movie, and it really makes you appreciate the series. And we'll go around, starting with Joe. How did you like The Last Watch on HBO, Joe?
I tell you what, man, I really enjoyed it. It kind of put a nice exclamation point on the entire series for me. As a guy who watched it from the very beginning, the first season, not really knowing what it was going to turn into, and just kind of watching it and going for the ride. really showed how much work was put into this last season and how much coordination and how much, artistic ability. Specifically the guy who was responsible for putting the snow on the set. I mean, that's something I never even thought about for 10 seconds. And it was this guy's entire job to put snow on the set. So there's just, and then the extras and all the people involved. Man. Yeah, and the costume people. It just makes you appreciate everything, and it makes me ashamed that there is a, I can't even think of what the word is. Whatever you signed to.
Petition.
Thank you. I couldn't get the word out of my mouth. A petition signed to have them redo the final season. It makes me sick just thinking about it after watching this documentary because there's so much hard work that went into it. Yeah. And just it really makes you appreciate everything. And I, for one, thought it was great. And it showed me so many things that I would have never thought a million years about. And it just kind of showed me how, everyone involved really loved the show.
Yeah, it blew my mind with that snow. It was just paper, like bleach white paper and water that they sprayed around with hoses. I was like, wow, man, amazing. I thought here they'd have to, have ski slope snowmakers, blowing.
Dude,
but
I thought it was hilarious when it snowed and they had to pick that up too.
It actually shut down filming. The real snow and cold shut down the filming for a little while. But yeah, what'd you think, Chachi? Did you like the last watch?
I thought it was pretty cool, man. It was really interesting to get that backstory behind the whole production side of it. And I mean, as somebody who was a little, really disappointed by the ending and the plot towards, the last 7 episodes, no big deal. It was awesome to see like that the production was amazing because all of these people were doing like such incredible jobs and like producing. How they really emphasized, like everybody was like, man, we're doing like a whole movie's worth of work in every episode. Like, this is how are we going to do this? Like, you heard that over and over and over. And it's just like, man, like, they're really having to do all of this work in like a year and a half's time. Like, how can you not appreciate that?
10 years of their lives spent doing the show. Aaron, the last watch, how'd you like it?
I really liked it. Actually, the first when they first started showing the characters outside of their characters, that was almost a gut punch for me because it's over. Like these are these people. It was almost like Tashi said, the last season was a disaster. I agree with that. It kind of ruined the show for me a little bit, but like that was like. Especially, obviously, Braun standing up, being as tall as he is with his glasses, and seeing them interact as like actual people, there, who they are, was really neat. I love behind the scenes kind of stuff like that, especially when they go as in depth with that. But I mean, like everybody else has said already, as hard as they worked, it was really cool. Like I knew that they worked hard, but hand tailoring every single piece of garment that went on every single, and the details that went into everybody was just outstanding. Right. So I already loved the show, but it gave me a whole new appreciation for everything, knowing everything that they did and the heart that they put into it.
Right. If you're interested in filmmaking and how they put this stuff together, you'll get a kick out of this because you're behind the scenes, the digital renderings, how they film the green screen stuff, the makeup artists, how long they have to sit in makeup, all the different units, the directors, where everyone has to be and all of it to come together to make the show. If you're interested in that and you want to see some candid shots of the cast, I recommend it on HBO. And we've been marinating on the last episode and how Game of Thrones ended for about a week and a half. So let's give I want to get your guys' opinions after a week and a half. Maybe you changed your mind about it. No, I'm going to say I'm still kind of the same after marinating for a week and a half. I think my bottom line is that I think the filmmaker or story writers, creators of this show wanted to avoid having a typical ending. And they tried hard to give us something, and I think that the storybook ending, the fairy tale ending that I had hoped for, would have made the better ending, and that's my bottom line. Joe, marinated for a week thinking about Game of Thrones and how it ended. I know we love the show. It's still one of the best shows ever. It's just last season rushed and fell flat. What are your thoughts about Game of Thrones final season?
Yeah, man, I tell you, getting that extra week to kind of sit on it and stew on it, I don't feel as bad about it. I don't love the season by any means, but I have closure. And there, it seems to be an ending that kind of fits along the lines of what George R. Martin was kind of doing. Like, you know, I wouldn't have been so upset with it if it wasn't so rushed into 6 episodes. Right. Like if they built it out over 12 episodes and they broke down more details about what happened between, you know, Jon murdering Dany and then all of a sudden Jon's on trial within like 7 minutes. You know, if that was a couple episodes and they broke it down, I wouldn't feel so bad about it. So I'm not as down on it as I was, but I still don't love it.
And Chachi, marinated on it for another week. You've been stewing. What do you think? Any different thoughts? Same thoughts?
I really agree with Tooch. Like, I feel like they just tried to do this huge project and then boiled it down to 7 episodes, and it just wasn't enough. Like, they weren't able to develop the plot like at all. It was just like bam, bam, bam. Like, we're moving on from plot point A to B to C, like, and then we're done. Like, it was just, I don't know. It was kind of symbolic of the whole series, really, because George R. R. Martin is never going to finish the books, and we're never going to get to see a good ending because it just got rushed.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Perfect.
I'm glad you brought that up. We'll circle back to Martin, to GRRM in a second after I get Aaron's thoughts after marinating for a week and a half.
You know, I read a lot of this different stuff online between, you know, talking to people at work or just opinions, and I actually am a little bit more fond of how it ended. To be honest, I heard a lot of people were disappointed that Bronn ended up on the throne, but in typical Game of Thrones fashion, nobody saw it coming. So, I mean, that's one thing, I guess, that I kind of appreciate the more we go on. Is like, well, they threw us for a loop one more time. The more things I got thinking is like, I would have loved to have seen Grey Worm and Jon Snow duke it out to the death.
Oh, yeah.
But then there's a theory that I think that they told Grey Worm they were sending Jon to the wall, but the wall wasn't a thing anymore, so they're more or less setting Jon free. Yeah. So it's kind of, the more I think about it, again, it's tough because it's like I didn't like it at the time. I'm more fond of it, but it doesn't mean it was bad. But I'm okay with it, I guess. I wouldn't say it was good. I wouldn't say it was bad. I'm in a better place about it than I was a week and a half ago. We'll just put it that way.
Sure. Dilly. The last watch helped with that. I'll give you that for sure. You know, definitely helped cheer you up after the ending fell flat for me. I mean, the thing is Tyrion and Jon were prisoners, you know, of Grey Worm, and Tyrion for some reason is allowed to speak and make a bunch of decisions. Where Jon Snow murdered the Dragon Queen, so of course they want him dead. But Tyrion suggests Jon's brother as king and Jon's sister as queen. You know,
yeah.
I have a hard time like buying that Grey Worm would go for that solution. But hey, I mean, Grey Worm, what's he gonna do? Hang out in King's Landing? It's destroyed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what really should have happened was like Grey Worm, to save his men, should have walked his ass out of there because they could have just starved his ass out of there, right, Joe?
Well, yeah, Grey Worm should go hang out with Missandei. Oh wait, never mind.
Oh, too soon. Too soon.
Right.
Come on, man.
And he's taking all the Unsullied to Noth, where they have, I believe, butterflies that carry a virus that usually kill outsiders. So that story's not going to end happily. So
yeah,
that sounds like a great show. It's like an X-Files episode.
Oh gosh.
Well, what would have been a great show were like the Dothraki blood riders who were sworn to avenge their Khaleesi chasing Jon north of the wall. That would make a pretty good series, you know. But I doubt we'll get to see that.
Did they resolve what happened with the Dothraki?
No, they're like I said last week, they're
just there.
Party guests that don't know when to leave. I'm sure who gets to tell the Dothraki to go home, you know? Because nobody wants him in Westeros anymore.
How are they gonna get home? Somebody gonna give him the boats?
I think maybe Drogon just went and picked them all up, and they're hanging out around Dany's body somewhere.
They're gonna call Greyjoy Uber. But right, so I was going back. And if you guys have any final thoughts, I can go back. Aaron, any final thoughts? You good? Game of Thrones. You're looking forward to another series to give us that.
I don't know how much you guys have seen about the prequel they're doing called, I think it's Blood Moon, where they're doing thousands of years before the Game of Thrones thing, where they're talking about the children of the forest. So like the little elf people that actually made the Night King, they're going back to do that. And I heard that, speaking of Vikings, that was what I was trying to think of. Lagertha, I guess, is in it, and she's evidently, from what I've understood, is going to be like a really early Targaryen.
Wow, she was super hot in Vikings, man.
Well, she's super hot in anything.
Hot. Oh my
so
god!
I'm just saying, if you want to put her in, Game of Thrones, naked ladies, maybe like who knows? God only knows. I mean, one can hope.
Dude, don't give me that hope.
I'm just saying, I'm gonna put it in there. We're just waiting for that hope. But I'm really looking for. And I heard there was 2 or 3 other ones they were trying to do, but Blood Moon with the Children of the Forest, little elf ladies, I've heard that's going to be the next thing they're developing. So that's what I'm hoping.
Is that 2021, Joe, for Blood Moon?
I have no clue, but I do know that I also believe that they mentioned that Naomi Watts is going to be involved in it.
Yes.
So that's another big name.
Yeah, she's.
George Martin said something in an interview about having 2 shows already approved by HBO. They're going to do like 3, but they didn't all get pushed through.
Right now, George R.R. Martin, circling back to him, do you think the way Game of Thrones, the TV show, ended? I can't imagine that's the way George R.R. Martin is going to end his show or his books. Joe, what do you think?
I highly doubt it.
Yep.
I imagine he just kind of gave them the cliff notes because he's probably not anywhere near an ending. He probably has some ideas in his head, and he just kind of probably gave them the first thing that popped up.
Yeah.
Apparently there was 2 endings. I had read that there was 2 endings out there, and that's what they went with. I'm curious what the other one would have been like.
I heard that they filmed multiple endings in case one leaked.
Right. Yeah.
Well, even at the end, they said that they brought back the 2 people from the Faceless God or the Many-Faced God. You see, I love that part where they're like, because we were in this, they were, I think, Spain, but like, well, the cast members are going to go out and party and eat and stuff. So they brought a bunch of people in from other seasons and this.
They brought the dummies in.
Kind of, exactly. I thought that was super cool.
Right, they were there as
Jon
decoys.
Snow, the Night King, and then the Faceless Man. Yeah, who made no appearance this season, which was disappointing.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, Arya didn't even use that power after the one time she used it to kill, I believe,
Walder Frey.
That's the one. Yep. So I mean, that was pointless. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. So yeah, that's kind of my thinking on it.
For Chachi, George Martin ending his books like the TV show, not a chance, right?
I wouldn't say not a chance. I feel like a lot of things that happen are kind of like canon, like that is where the story's going to go. Like Bran being king, like I think that's probably the actual ending of the books and the show, because what happened with the ending in the show is they ended up setting up 3 kingdoms. They have the north with Sansa, Bran in the south, and then they sent Jon away to the Wall, but really he's going to rule over the wildlings in the north. So I mean, it's really just setting up the Holy Roman Empire, like 3 separate kingdoms working together.
And then you got Arya going west too.
And that whole political theme, it's just like that's the point of the story, and I feel like that's probably what's going to happen. But the way they're going to get there and what characters will be left even is going to be completely different.
All right. Well, Joe, I tweeted out from I Have a Stream a poll of which show they'd want us to recap. Westworld Season 3 is in the lead, followed by Watchmen, The Witcher, and His Dark Materials. Now, I think His Dark Materials probably, or the Watchmen are probably the ones that are coming out the soonest. So I don't know when The Witcher is coming out. That also looks good. But
Westworld's not until 2020, I can tell you that.
Right, and that looks great. That gives me plenty of time to watch the first 2 seasons. So
yeah, I mean, I think the first one coming to mind that's coming out soon is you got Black Mirror coming out next week.
Oh, no kidding! Next week, I didn't know that.
Season 5, yeah.
Right, and there's only a few episodes, right?
About that earlier.
There's only like 5 episodes, I think, of Black Mirror.
Oh, for real?
So
there's some big names like Miley Cyrus. You got what's his name
Anthony
that played
Mackie.
Anthony Mackie? Thank you.
Yeah, the Falcon.
Yep, Falcon.
Right. All right.
He's going to be in Falcon in the Disney Plus series.
Well, really,
that's
really
excited.
Any of those 4 will be good to recap. I know his Dark Materials looks like it could have some real potential too. I know that only got 11% of the vote. We had 37 votes. Now, Joe, anything you want to add? Any other series news before we end the show?
No other series news. I just wanted to throw another show out there, which I think all of you said you have not watched, and that's on Hulu. It's 11/22/63. It's a show about James Franco going back in time to stop the Kennedy assassination. So I thought that might be a good one for us to talk about at some point. So if you guys haven't watched it, maybe that would be a good one to do.
I had it queued up today, Joe. I was about to watch episode 1, but I had some work to do on this show. But yeah, it's in my queue. I was just about to watch episode 1. Chachi, you want to chime in on that one?
I was gonna say that I just started rewatching that, and I'm showing it to my girlfriend for the first time.
All right.
And it's funny because I'm just as captivated by it on the second watch as she is on the first, if not more.
Nice.
It's still so good.
Nice. You ever seen that one, Aaron?
Yeah, 11/22/63 was awesome. I thought that was a really good one. I really enjoyed it.
Is that based on a Stephen King novel?
Yeah. Yep.
It is.
Stephen
Yes.
King.
All right. Great. Excellent.
There's another Hulu show. Was it the Tower? There was another Stephen King show that got, or another Hulu show that was the Stephen
The
King
Man
show.
in the High Tower,
That's
right?
the one. Yeah. No, that's Amazon.
The Man in the High Castle is Philip K.
Oh.
Dick, right? The Man in the High Castle.
Yeah.
The Dark Tower series
Dark Tower.
is supposed to be made. I don't know when it's coming out. And then there's the Looming Tower on Hulu, which is about the 9/11 disaster.
No, there was another. I must be thinking of something completely different then. Because I
right.
thought that there was another one, but that's all right. No big deal.
All right.
Another big one last quick series to touch on. Lord of the Rings series coming to Amazon. That's going to be next year, so that'll be a big one too.
And is that that's not the same story that Peter Jackson told? It's going to be a different, right? A different story than the story of Frodo and.
I have no clue.
Okay.
That's kind of exciting.
I was wondering. I think it's a different. It tells the story of Sauron in the second age, whatever it was.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
but that will be good, man.
We got a good comment, Tooch, before we wrap it up in the chat. Steve Zimmerman, he said, future show topic we can possibly talk about video games that you would like seen made into TV shows.
Oh, very nice, man. For
None
me,
of just because they're always disasters.
Resident Evil 4 had a great story. I love that one, that scary castle in Spain or whatever it was. That was a great video game.
Yeah, well, then you figure The Witcher is going to be one that's going to be coming out later this year. That's based on a video game. And...
Well, there are novels, and then there's a video game, and now there's the series.
Oh,
so the video game is based on the novels.
Oh yeah, Castlevania is also an anime. Yeah,
right. I really liked that one. It was pretty short, but I did like that one. So I guess there is one successful one. Oh, did you hear? Was you guys talking about Twisted Metal?
Yes, that's.
Oh, it's right. I forgot to include that in my
Yeah.
news. Sony is developing a Twisted Metal television series as well.
Wow.
Coming out to their streaming service, so that would be interesting. And Chachi just mentioned a show. Chachi, you want to talk a little bit about the show you just mentioned?
Oh, there's another Hulu original that I watched a couple years back. It's called The Following. And the main character is Kevin Bacon. He plays this detective who is trying to catch this cult leader who is actually a serial killer. And he's got very similar moxie and charisma to Ted Bundy-esque.
Okay. Nice.
It's a really good show.
And that's on Hulu. All right. Well, we've reached the end of our show. Thanks for listening. I have a stream on Bears Ballroom Radio Network. Follow Joe Mandel at Joe Mandel.
That's right. That's where you can find me.
Follow Chachi at Frankie Meyers.
Please don't subtweet me.
Follow Aaron Michalski at Michalski88. And follow me at Santucci_John. Follow I Have a Stream at I Have a Stream Pod on Twitter. And as always, tune in live at Bears Barroom Radio Network. And Joe, take us out with a little television.
Oh, yeah.